Hi everyone, and welcome to a new video showing my full process to making a shadow box. For this one, I decided to make a shadow box about the Gashadokuro, which is a Japanese yokai, like a spirit or a demon of sorts, made of the bones of dead soldiers who died on the battlefield and weren't buried properly. So the legend goes that the resentment and the anger that the soldiers felt sort of built up and their bones mesh together and they become this massive monster. And for this box in particular, I wanted to show the legend of Takayasha Hime, who is a sorceress who decided to try and overthrow the emperor. Because the legend goes her father was a samurai who tried to lead a rebellion and failed and was killed, and his entire army was killed as well. So to get revenge, she decided to raise the bones of her father's dead army and turn them into a big Gashadokuro and attack Kyoto, which was the capital at the time. It failed. She her monster was destroyed. She was killed. But I thought, what if she didn't fail? And what if she did make it to Kyoto and started attacking the city? And that was my basis for making this. And it was also my excuse to do another giant big boned monster, because turns out I like to do that quite a lot. To design the city, originally I wanted to do an era accurate Kyoto, and I had to give up on that because I couldn't find images or depictions of the city at the time, apart from maps, which was not useful to me. And I couldn't find any, like, even a drawing or something of Kyoto at the time. It was only like very modern cityscapes. So what I chose to do was I took I forgot the name, the pagoda, the tower of Kyoto. It's like the one famous thing that's in all the photos. But that as the central piece of the city, and then tried to find like traditional Kyoto specific houses. But even that was a challenge. Like, I took a castle that's close to Kyoto and added that in the background as well. So it is not an accurate cityscape in any way, shape, or form. For the houses, I ended up looking up medieval or traditional Japanese housing and just took ones that I liked and arranged them in a way that I liked. So it is not an accurate depiction in any way. And I do apologize for that, but I couldn't find a workaround there. And for that pagoda, it has a bit of an antenna or a spike maybe at the top there. And again, I wasn't able to figure out if that was something that was already there at the time or if it was added later on, because that pagoda was destroyed and rebuilt. And because I wasn't sure, and because also I would have the issue of it toppling over if it wasn't like secure to the paper properly, I just made it big enough for it to touch both edges of the frame and hit the antenna, and problem solved. Won't have to worry whether it's accurate or not, and my pagoda is now nice and secure to the paper. Ooh, I haven't mentioned this either, but the drawing that I used to represent the Gashadokuro is its most famous depiction, which is in a painting from the 19th century by Utagawa Kuniyoshi. And if you like anime, you might recognize this because that figure is used in a few anime. Like I remember it's in Pompoko. In one of the shots, you see it. You do see it pop up for a bit. It's an anime series that I can't remember its title right now. I might put it up if I remember. And to draw the bits that you didn't see of the Gashadokuro, it took me a while because I never went to art school, I never learned how to draw a skeleton, and I had no idea how to go about doing it, but I still wanted somewhat accurate arms, even though they'd be mostly hidden by the cityscape. But yeah, that it took me a long time to get these kind of right, and I'm not even sure that they are right. To do that layer there, the top layer, I chose to do it on a thicker paper than the rest of the box. So normally I do my layers on paper that is 120 GSM thick, and for this one it was 160 GSM because I was a bit worried that it would blend too much in the background if the paper wasn't thick enough. Then because it had other layers in front of it, the shadow might not end up being dark enough to be particularly noticeable. And I wanted it to stand out as much as possible because the princess, the sorceress, is in a way the center subject of the piece. You know, she's the mastermind. She's the one controlling this massive beast. So I didn't want her to be blending into the background, which can happen sometimes with your first layer, because that's the layer that gets the less light. So by using thicker paper, I could make sure that its shadow would be darker than the other layers and stand out a bit more. When cutting all the houses, it was a question of deciding which bits to leave as slight textures, like those beams you see there under the house, or the lines on the roof, and which bits to make thicker, or like to make bigger holes, I guess. And I decided against doing mostly texture and then a few choice lines be thicker because I wanted, obviously because it's me, I wanted them intricate and I wanted them to be like detailed, but I also didn't want them to end up being too confusing. I wanted that if you looked at it at a glance, you knew exactly what you were looking at, where the roof ends, where the walls begins, where the windows are, and just like from a distance just go, oh yeah, I can see exactly what this is. And then if you chose to look closer, then you would notice the extra bit of details like the beams and the railings and stuff like that, just to make the cityscape look a bit more cohesive. I also had the option, if you see there, I'm only putting details and textures basically on the bits of the layer that stick out and not add any to the bits that are hidden by other layers in front of it. If you add large enough details, they can stand out as shadows. You sort of see the light shine through the details, and it can make for a nice effect. The downside to that is it can make like the shadows and all the elements look really too intricate. And so add too many elements, and sort of like the light blends in with the shadows, and you're not sure where the paper ends and where the shadow begins and stuff, which can look really cool. But in this specific piece, yeah, the buildings are intricate enough, and there's enough details that if I added extra stuff in shadow form, then it would end up too confusing, too convoluted, and it just wouldn't look nice. So I swear it's not just an excuse for me to be lazy and not add details. I'm doing what's needed. I'm very glad that I found an angle for the pagoda that touched both edge of the paper, because that one would definitely have toppled over if it was just attached by its base at the end and not by the top. It would fold over at the base, and it has no layers behind it to sort of catch it. It's the only thing behind that one is just the hand of the Gashadokuro, and he's a big terrible beast, but in paper form he would not be strong enough to catch it, I'm afraid. That's why I also make the base of whenever the base is hidden, I try to make it wider than it needs to be. Same with the legs of the Gashadokuro. You can see that it looks like I gave him bell bottoms or something, but it's the wider the base is, the less likely the paper is to tip over or fold over. And with the Gashadokuro, it was especially important because he's not attached to the top of the drawing. He's only top of the frame. He's only touching the bottom, and he only has the base to sort of hold up straight. That's why I made the base as wide as I could without it showing through the buildings, and without the danger is that it makes too weird of a shadow and you have to find a way to hollow it out but still make it wide enough that it can stand upright. Well, the upside with him is that he has two legs, so that's always a bit more secure than making just one base. I can't remember if I cut out the fingers there too. The thing about the arms is that they're hidden between the cityscape and the buildings and stuff, but it's the final layer of the box. I did do the arms, which means that you would see the arms as a shadow behind the buildings, which would look nice and creepy. But which is also why I struggled to I struggled to draw them right, but I had to because you would see them. They would stand out with the lights on. And these are the foam strips that I paste behind the layers to space out the layers and create depth in the piece. And this is my frame making process. And I'm sorry the image keeps going in and out of focus. I forgot to set the to turn off the autofocus. Sorry about that. I think this was the first time I ever filmed myself making the frame. So figuring out the where to place my camera and stuff, it is a work in process. It's still a work in process. And adding the lights. And here we go. Here's the final product. Final piece. I'm very pleased with how it came out. Like everything I tried to do came out right. The sorceress is nice and stark against the rest. The buildings are detailed without being so detailed that you can't even understand what you're looking at. And the Gashadokuro stands out really nicely against that empty sky. I hesitated in adding clouds and make it sort of like a stormy night and like Attack in the Night sort of thing. But then I decided against it because the bottom, like the city and all of that, is so intricate already and has so many details that you needed that empty space to sort of contrast it. Otherwise the box would have been just too busy. But there we go, that's my piece. This one is still available to buy if you're interested in it. You can follow the link in the description to my Etsy store if you're interested. You can also find me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all of that. And thank you very much for watching, and see you soon for a new video.